Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And good morning, folks. Welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Right along with me this hour, and we'll talk cars. We'll take your car questions. Miss Hannah is back in the house after, I assume that you passed your SAT. Is that correct, Miss Hannah? Is that an affirmative? Well, she got into college. Yay! Congratulations. That's all that counts. Well, we missed you over the last couple of weeks, and Jonathan did a great job sitting in. And folks, 888 Car Clinic is the main number for you to call. That's 888-227-2546. So write that down, and let's get on board early in this hour so that we don't get pushed toward a short conversation toward the end of the hour, which is typically the case. And so I'll just ask you to, if you do have a question or a comment. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part this morning by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Don't take a chance on being stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested. It's free of charge and one of the many services available. And if your battery needs to be replaced, the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts will help you find the exact battery for your car or truck or SUV or lawnmower or whatever with 4 wheels. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Your calls, your questions coming up after the break. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you're going to love us. If your vehicle's a little sluggish, try Berryman's B12 Chem Tool. Using HEST or high energy solvent technology, Berryman's B12 Chem Tool dissolves gum, varnish, and carbon deposits in the fuel system, which help restore lost power and peak performance. But don't take our word for it. Richard M's 99 Acura had 200,000 miles and was idling roughly. He put a bottle of Berryman B12 Chem Tool and the idle smoothed out and the car ran noticeably better. Learn more about Berryman B12 Chem Tool and other great products at berrymanproducts.com. Insurance 101, courtesy of Grundy Insurance. Coverage gaps, holes in your vehicle insurance that leave you lacking necessary protection. Grundy's MVP, or Motor Vehicle Program, provides coverage for both collectors and daily drivers on one policy, both with agreed value coverage. Grundy's MVP consolidates your exposures and offers broader coverage with equal policy limits, agreed value, and an added 150% valuation clause. See the Insurance 101 section at Grundy.com. Talking tunes! No, not the ones on your radio. The ones that allow you to reprogram your vehicle's factory computer without even popping the hood. The result is more power, more torque, and a better overall driving experience. We recently sat down with Jim McGinn, Vice President of Marketing for Power Tech. Jim touched on another benefit associated with automotive tuning and efficiency. Let's hear how tuning your vehicle can lead to increased fuel economy.
Superchips tuning essentially increases your vehicle's timing. It allows the truck or the car or the SUV or Jeep to run in a higher gear, and it improves the process which we call atomization, which is essentially it turns bulk liquid into spray, and when you achieve this, you increase fuel pressure and you increase your fuel economy. So as a result, you can run the vehicle in a higher gear with advanced timing, and you get a more complete burn. We've done extensive road and dyno testing to validate these claims, and it really impacts the bottom line for the consumer with the Superchips Flashback.
Find your perfect tune at superchips.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with today's broadcast. I want to welcome you, and for those of you who are tuned in to watch Bobby Live, I welcome you as well around the globe. It's interesting to receive calls from Afghanistan and Israel and places, the UK. If Frank is tuned in and watching there, it's, I think, 2 a.m. Is it not, Fabio? Like something like 2 a.m. In Australia. So Frank, if you happen to be up this morning, this late, or this early, then send us your note, and Jonathan will, of course, write it down or print your question if you have one, or anyone in the chat room if you have a question about your car. They'll write it down and bring it into the studio to me, and I'll do my best to answer it. If you need a gift for your Father's Day coming up, and this is ahead of time, so for every person who calls in this morning, we have, the courtesy of our partners at O'Reilly Auto Parts, a $25 gift card, which is a fantastic eagle, just falls right out of the sky for someone, some Car Clinic listener today. So you just make sure that when you call 888 Car Clinic and you talk with Miss Hannah, you leave her your contact information, number will do, and then we can call you at the end of the program. This is the first of 2 hours, so sometime about 11:55 Eastern time today, I will pull a name out of a hat, and that hat will have names in it from those who call in today during the first and second hour. So if you just hear this first hour locally or around the globe, just remember that you don't have to be present to win. You just have to call in 888-227-2546. Some Car Clinic listener will get a $25 gift card. So what would you do with that? Well, I have some ideas of what I would like, and those things that when I have those little moments of silence at home, and I'm in my garage, and I don't work outside of my shop garage. I don't actually physically work in the shop any longer, but I have as many tools as I could ever hope to imagine. And when you collectively, of all the technicians that we have, we can do anything there is except for paint and body work to any automobile. So there's no real need for me. But when I get home at night, there are little bottles of special lubricant that I have that we use for our air tools that I have. And so I have one bottle that I covet, and ultimately, recently, I got another second bottle, so now I have one in my garage that I use for door hinges at home that squeak as you maybe get up in the middle of the night and you move a door. I mean, things like that, or cabinets, or our front door. We rarely lock. We're using the key to our front door. We always lock it from the inside, and we go out. My wife and I, go out the garage. So recently, the garage door opener wouldn't work, and we had to unlock the front door. And wouldn't you know, there's a deadbolt lock and there's a standard handle lock. Neither one of those would work. And literally, I had to spend a few minutes, and ultimately, if I had had a dipstick in my car, I could have pulled the dipstick out and put a drop of oil on the key and exercised it in the key lock, because I knew that that's all that was necessary. But by having patience and understanding that the key was the right key and it would work as long as I was tender with it and inserted it and pulled it out, got little key tumblers. Anyway, we did get in. So I took some of my magic potion and I lubricated the door locks, and now you can just flip them and they open. And those are the sorts of things that are little do-it-yourself projects around the house that we all do, but we have to have that little cache of lubricants, car washes, bucket, a special bucket. I have a bucket that is the right size for me. I have a mitt that I use to wash my car. I have an old blue microfiber towel that I cannot wear out. I cannot wear it out, and I use it to clean the wheels after I've cleaned the car. And my wheels have some 10 spokes that are double aluminum, and so there's 20 slots each one, and only my index finger will get into each slot. So it's a pain in the hiney to clean them, but afterwards they look so beautiful. And I've tried every car wash, every soap that you can go to. I'll go up when I run out of and I use 3 different brands of materials and cleaners for my wheels. And so the bottom line is, I go up to O'Reilly Auto Parts and I'll browse that car care section where all of the soaps, and I tell you, there's always something new there and always something new that I tried. I tried washes, car washes with polish. I tried car washes without. And the car wash with polish is a better product. It's a little more expensive, but you better not leave it on the car long. You have to dry it, and then you have to take a microfiber, a soft cloth, and then finish drying the vehicle, because whatever product is in that does tend to spot, because it has some particles of whatever. I know that it does because when I took the bottle off the shelf at O'Reilly Auto Parts, in the bottom, the particles had settled to the bottom, and I had to shake it and break them loose and yada yada. But anyway, $25. So I see that Robert's online from Kansas. We're going to go to him first, and Steve is calling from Florida. So we already have two names that'll be in the hat for sure. Just make sure that Robert and Steve, that you've given your number to Miss Hannah, and we'll perhaps draw your name at the end of the program, the second hour. Meanwhile, in Kansas, Robert, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Your first call, so you're first up. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Bobby. How are you doing?
Well, just really terrific. I'm trying to kick off the show with some information that I think would be interesting, and it's Father's Day coming up, and O'Reilly said, hey Bobby, here's $25 and you know, at your convenience, and so I just thought that would be a nice thing to do, nice of them to do. I also have, and I'll get into it a little bit later, last week I actually mentioned it, and the title is Tuners May Have a Big Problem with Chevy's Mid-Engine Corvette, and it's all about the fact that they've encrypted the ECU. And you know, we talk about super chips and power tech and all those flashback programs that add horsepower, and so GM has gone to the extent now of encrypting their ECU so that no one can get into it. But that's going to be something that we'll have to talk with. If you've heard Jim McGinn, who is the technical director, he's the guru there with that company, with the parent company. I'm going to be asking them, you know, as soon as these cars hit the showroom floor. Okay, not that I'm going to buy one, but I was never a Corvette person, although the last couple of years of Corvettes, I think, have been beautiful cars, and I can only imagine the mid-engine's going to be great, but I have some reservations. Normally, I don't have any reservations about new cars because there's so much technology now that you can buy a new car, Robert. When I say a new car, I don't mean just a new car. I mean a new car with new body design and what have you. And, you know, normally we'd say, well, let's give it a couple of years, but, you know, so they can work the bugs out. Well, my take on that has changed over the last 10 years because of the manufacturing process and metallurgy, electronics, everything is better and better. So you get a 2020 car is going to be better than a 2019 car, and so on and so forth. I do have my doubts about the new mid-engine Corvette, but who knows? We'll wait and see. But what can I do for you? How are you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yeah, I knew you was a Dodge Viper man. I knew you didn't care for Corvettes, but I've never heard you really say why you didn't care for them.
Well, they ride like a bucket. They ride harsh. They had squeaks and rattles, and the doors didn't fit right, and they were plastic or fiberglass, and so I mean, and the same thing was true for the early Vipers. They didn't have a top. They had no side windows, no air conditioner, and only when I spotted one. And I still didn't have a daily driver at that time that I really had a passion for, except my classic Porsche, and I wanted to restore it. I didn't want to drive it. So the bottom line, I saw a coupe, a GTS Viper, which means that it had a real top and had protection, and then to me a convertible is 70% of a car. Now, a convertible is okay if it's a hard top, retractable hard top. Then when the hard top is in place, you have the rigidity of an automobile that has the full structure of the top. And to that end, interestingly enough, as we talked about that, Robert, remember the cabin forward Chrysler product? You know, the Leah Iacocca advertised that. Those particular cars, if you took the windshield out of the car, see, the windshield is an integral part of the structure of the vehicle. If you take the windshield out of those cars, the roof would sag 2 inches. A windshield is a very integral part of the structure of a hardtop car. Hard break coming up. It's just that time. Robert, stay there. When I come back, I'll give you the mic. Don't go away, folks. Insurance 101, courtesy of Grundy Insurance. Grundy's agreed value insurance does not deduct for vehicle age or expected wear and tear when evaluating a loss. They know there's a greater likelihood that your collector vehicle's value will increase over time. Grundy also understands the cost to repair or replace your collector car can change. Their collector car policies feature a built-in inflation guard, which in recent years has automatically increased the insured value of one's vehicle by 4%. Learn more at the Insurance 101 section at Grundy.com.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This week, a 98 Jaguar came into the shop with 200,000 miles and grinding noises in the rear. A road test determined both rear axle bearings worn out. Tommy, our ASE certified technician, disassembled both sides and pressed the old bearings off the carriers. Time for new parts. We reached out to our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional and ordered new bearings and seals. These parts had to be an exact match for this vehicle, or we risk having to do the job over. Our O'Reilly Auto Parts professional informed us that all old and new bearings had matching numbers etched on the races, regardless of where they were manufactured. So we knew the new parts would be correct. What a relief. Repair complete, vehicle quiet, and everyone happy. Another great reason why our first call for parts is O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher at 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking with Robert in Kansas. So, Robert, as I promised before the break, I'm going to turn the mic to you. I understand you have an 08 F-150. Let's talk about it.
Yes, Bobby, I've had this 08 F-150 for 10 years now. I bought it with 22,000 miles. It's got 101,000 now, and I've had nothing but good luck. The most money I've ever spent on it's been $1,000 for the climate control console that went out on it.
Right.
But anyway, it's developed, I've noticed here probably in the last 10,000 miles, a slight ticking noise. It sounds like it's in the front of the engine. And I've been told that that's a valve timing or a valve chain
timing chain.
Pulley.
Timing chain tensioner? Yeah.
Tensioner, yeah.
Right.
And I was just wondering is that a possibility? Are they famous for that? Or
they are. Those engines are do have and do develop noisy front chains and tensioners. You have to disassemble, of course, the front of the engine. It's a rather involved job to do so, but it would be worth your time. And the reason I hesitate here is because I keep thinking about spark plugs. Is that the 3-valve engine that has the spark plugs? Have you replaced coils and plugs in that vehicle? You didn't
No,
mention.
I haven't.
Well, that's a concern to me because that's more pending issues, or equally as pending issues. That's kind of like the silent death or the silent enemy that you don't hear. And the spark plugs on that engine, you know what a spark plug looks like. You take the plug out, you got the threaded part, you have the little ground strap, and you have the electrode that, where the spark, sparks between the ground strap and the electrode, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Well, on your engine, you have a spark plug, but then you have a 3/4 of an inch shank that is pressed onto, not made onto, but crimped onto the end of the threaded part of the spark plug, and it projects down into the cylinder and puts the spark closer to the action down in the chamber. And ironically, years ago, I talked about the fact that I liked and was enamored with and raced Hemi engines, a half-inch stroker, 500 cubic inch engine Hemi. And I like the Hemi engine because you've got the combustion chamber that's a hemispherical, and you got the spark plug, and of course now dual spark plugs, right dead center of the chamber. So you can start the flame in a more advantageous location so that it propagates, it spreads faster and more evenly, which means it burns more of the fuel, which means that you get more horsepower and fewer emissions and all those sorts of things. Now, having said that, I used an analogy, like if you wanted to start a fire, you would stack the wood like a teepee, and then you would magically, if you could, stick the flame of the fire dead in the middle of the teepee, so that all of the wood and the heat would start the fire equally on all of the sticks of wood that were stacked, shaped like a pyramid. You see where I'm going there? So,
right,
so lo and behold, fast forward 10 years later, or 15, I don't know how long it was, but a long time, Ford came out with the idea for emissions to do the same thing. They put the spark deeper into the chamber. Well, the spark plug only reaches the surface of the combustion chamber, so they added a shank that's about 3/4 of an inch long. Well, what happens, that shank, it worked, except that, and this is something for you to know, and for every Ford F-150 owner tuned in to know, the problem is that shank is the same size as the root size of the hole. Obviously, it can't be bigger because you couldn't get it in. Well, the problem is when it goes in and carbon builds up on the outside wall of this shank that's inside the chamber, when you unscrew the plug and try to pull it out, the shank says, I'm not coming out. It would be like you putting your finger in something and putting a ring on your finger and trying to pull your finger out without pulling the ring off. Well, what happens when you unscrew the plug, the end of the spark plug breaks off, dislodges from the spark plug, the plug comes out, then you got a piece hanging in the chamber, and now you either, and they being the aftermarket, has a special extractor tool for this spark plug. So I'm just forewarning you that sooner than later your engine's going to start misfiring at 30, 40, 50 miles per hour like a fish nibble, and then after it misfires 10,000 times, that's right, about 10,000 times is the threshold, the onboard computer is going to say, we have a misfire here, a continuing, ongoing misfire, and then check engine light will come on, and then you'll go to a shop and they'll say, number 2 cylinder misfiring. That's when you're going to get into some serious issues with the carbon buildup, and we have a special procedure that we've created. And before that, we had one technician here that took an impact and said, get the spark plug. He broke 5 of the 8. And Johnny Bars, our master ASE certified technician, was left with a job to go behind him and extract those 5 broken pieces. So we created a policy of how to go about getting the plugs out of one of those engines, and we perform. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with your timing chain noise. That's something that you got to take the engine apart and fix, but you don't have to do it right away. Just continue. How long has the ticking noise been there? Let me ask that question.
Oh, it just started here within the last 6 months.
Well, you can monitor that. Does it go away, or is it there, hot, cold, first starts all the time?
Well, it's really worse when you first start up.
Well, sure, yeah.
It reminds me of the old drive valve lifters.
Yeah.
It will clear up and quiet down. It's almost hardly noticeable after you run it a while.
Right. Well, you could go a while longer. Just monitor that and know that when you first fire it up, that's why newer cars, newer engines, newer being the last 15 years, use lighter viscosity oil, because when you first crank the engine, the skinnier the oil or the lighter the viscosity, then the faster it will get to those nooks and crannies and fill in those voids and those worn out places on your chain and or your tensioner. But sooner than later, you're going to have to replace the tensioner. So when like in the coldest of winter, so you've got maybe another 10 months now because we're on the other side of winter. In the winter, that's when the engine is the loosest. I mean, it shrinks, and so the heads are closer to the crankshaft. The chain has more slack in it than it does at any other time, and that's when you need that oil to immediately fill that void and push that tensioner out. So you'll want to make sure that you monitor it, and as the weather gets really cold, that's when the opportunity would happen and would rear its ugly head for that chain to give a problem. So anyway, that's where so you can monitor that and live with it for a while, knowing what you know now, what I told you. When the engine starts to misfire, you want to make sure that when you get to that point, you call me back, and I'll share with you a procedure that took us 2 years to develop. And since then, we've had one spark plug to break on every single F-150, and it is a normal 2-3 times a month job in my shop. So we know what it takes now to get those plugs out without pulling the shank off the end of the spark plug. Anyway, then you can look online. Yeah, it's a while. It really is. So, if somebody says, it's going to cost you $280 to replace the spark plugs in your car, or whatever the price is, don't look at them like they're crazy. To understand, there's a method and a special procedure that must be performed, or else you're going to face. And there's a shop next door to us called us, says, we did a tune-up, and they're not even in the tune-up business, and there's no such thing as a tune-up, so they shouldn't be doing this. They're a transmission shop, but they obviously needed the work. They took the car in, they called and talked to us, and they said, hey, we're in trouble, can you help us here? Well, we're good neighbors, right? Well, they had an engine, but the engine, the piece broke off and was down in the motor. They had to take the motor apart. And, knock on wood, we've not had to do that because we learned not to do that. And it doesn't take but 1 or 2 mistakes, and you eat those mistakes if you run a good operation, and you fix them so that you don't make the same mistake again and again and again. Hey, thanks so much for your call, Robert. Let me know if I can help you in the future.
Sure will. That didn't sound like one of Ford's better ideas, anyway.
Well, they quit doing it. They quit that. I forget what year it was. It's 6, 7, 8, and 9 somewhere. You can Google that, and I don't normally send people online because what you see online and what is in the real world have little to do with your specific vehicle. But just read broken spark plug F-150, and you'll call me back and say, what is that procedure? We'll talk about it when it hits your door, okay?
All right. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Let's go to Steve, take a call from him, and I'll invite you to call at 888-227-2546. Good morning, Steve. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning, Bobby. How are we doing today?
Well, just fine, thank you. Thanks for asking. So what's up with you?
I have a 2006 Chevy van. It's the 3500. It's the 1-ton.
Okay.
And I had a fuel leak on it. When it was running, the gas would just dribble out from the tank area and I was told it was more than likely the fuel pump. Fuel pump's located in the top of the tank. When they changed the fuel pump, they said it was in really bad damage. You could actually see through the pump and the mechanism and the housing and everything.
Wow.
Now that I've had that replaced, though, the truck runs great, but my fuel gauge does not go below an eighth of a tank. I need to know, is that related to something that they did, or they're telling me that it's potentially something behind the dash of my truck, which is going to cost me $400 to fix?
I do believe it. You did not have this. You had a leak before, but the gauge worked correctly.
I had the leak before, but the gauge worked absolutely perfect.
And after replacing the leaking fuel bucket assembly, they replaced the bucket assembly, sure,
Yes.
right? The module,
Yep.
right? Okay.
Yep.
It's a defective module. They need to replace it.
That's the module that's attached to the fuel pump that was installed.
Well, the module is the pump. It holds the pump. The module is that's why, here's what I would recommend. And if you've listened to me at all, you heard me talk about Ford Parts and our professional parts association. There's that. I knew that break was coming. I knew that break was coming up. So, Steve, you stay right there, and folks, you stay right there. And Steve, I have some information for you that may help you and help the shop that worked on your car. Don't go away. We recently sat down with Kate Searlick, Global Product Management Lead with Johnson Controls. Kate talked about the advantages of AGM batteries, noting they outperform traditional flooded batteries when partially charged, a key benefit if your normal driving consists of shorter trips. Let's hear from Kate.
Today's charging systems are not negatively affected by installing an AGM battery, and no modifications are needed for the alternator or the charging system. In fact, an AGM battery actually performs better when partially charged than a standard flooded battery. This means if you're not driving long enough distances to fully charge the battery, an AGM battery more efficiently performs and not consume additional power from the alternator. We were able to validate this in fleet testing we conducted in Las Vegas, where we witnessed AGM batteries providing up to twice the service life of a standard flooded battery.
AGM batteries help meet the electrical demands put on today's vehicles, and Johnson Controls is the world's largest producer of automotive AGM batteries. Learn more at autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, brought to you in part by the Car Care Council, our partners. Folks, summer's around the corner, so make sure your family's memories aren't made sitting on the side of the road. Follow the 3 P's of car care: prevent, prepare, and plan. the 3 P's, from our friends at the carcare.org site. Take a look out and go there and see what you can learn to make your life better and your car run better and stay safer. Go to carcare.org. So we're talking with Steve, and Steve, about your fuel pump. Here's the bottom line. And you've heard me mention Motorcraft, and you've heard me mention the Ford Professional Service Network, of which I am a member. I'm a shop member of the Ford Professional Service Network. It's a network from Ford Motor Company that enables us in the independent world to buy OEM factory Ford parts. Now, what's neat about that, and what would have been advantageous to you and your vehicle, would be if you'd had an original factory part for that car. Granted, you have a Chevrolet, but a Ford has OmniCraft, which is parts for all cars, OEM quality parts. So
I was told by my mechanic that he would only put in factory parts for it. He didn't buy a generic by any means. He would spend the extra money to buy the factory replacement.
Then he should replace that because here's the bottom line. No doubt in my mind, the gauge is controlled by the float and the electronics in the bucket, which is the container. So it's like the size of a 2-pound coffee can, and it contains the fuel pump, the filter, the wiring, the float mechanism. I mean, it's the way you replace a pump, and it's the way you stop fuel leaks, and it's quite common. I mean, a smart car, in fact, on a smart car, that bucket is very difficult to exchange because there's a banjo, a plastic screw ring that holds it in place, and the tank swells because it's made of plastic. And when you take the old ring off, you can't get the old ring back on. And I'll quite candidly, it takes 2 technicians to force the new one to get it back on because the tank is changed. But the bottom line, it works. You just have to be really aware and use factory parts. So if he used factory parts, of course, whether they're OmniCraft, Ford, which would have been fine, or Delco, which would have been fine, they will replace that part for him at no charge. And even having said that, even if he had gone to O'Reilly Auto Parts and bought that car, his local O'Reilly professional would give him that part free. He would have to eat the labor unless it's an OEM, and they will pay him maybe not his full rate, but they will, just like Ford Professional Service Network, they pay us. If we put a part in an automobile and the part is defective or doesn't work to specs, they'll pay us to replace it. We only buy that part one time. They give us the second part for no charge and actually pay us maybe not 100% of our labor rate, but at some industry rate. I said all that to say this. The first thing that needs to be done is that bucket needs to be replaced with another new one, and that's what I would insist the shop to do. I would say, hey guys, it worked. What's changed? What's the common denominator here? You got a leak, you got a gauge that worked correctly. Now the leak's gone away, but the gauge doesn't work, and that is the gauge that was replaced in the sender unit. Any other questions?
One of the problems I've got down here is I am new to the Daytona Beach area, so my lifelong mechanic is no longer available for me, and trying to find a reputable mechanic down here is very difficult. I was under the belief that I found one who's just a stand-up guy, honest as could be, fantastic, but now he's telling me that it's not related to what he did, and I'm worried about losing him and starting all over again.
Okay.
Find someone to fix my vehicle.
Okay, then let's make a deal. Let's make a pact here. You tell him that, and perhaps he's listening if he's there in Daytona. You tell him that you would like, and you suggest, and you, in whatever words that you can say without being demanding, just don't burn the bridge, because we all know that you need this relationship, and he has an opportunity to earn your relationship, and you have a methodology now, because I'm going to share it with you. Number one, make sure you got the fuel tank as low as possible with fuel, because otherwise it's heavy and it's dangerous, and by law we have to drain the gas out of the vehicle before we pull the tank.
I had it down to under an eighth of a tank when I gave it to him the first time, and coincidentally that is as low as the fuel gauge goes now.
Okay, so here's what he can do. Two things. Number one, you would ask him to unplug the tank, and he can reach that wire from the gauge. Well, we know that if you unplug the tank, it's going to go to empty, because there's no signal there, because it provides a ground, and it may be that he could it may be that he can use a scan tool to get into that circuit and activate the fuel gauge with the scan tool. I'm not sure that that's possible, but certainly he can measure the resistance coming from the gauge in the tank. You know, we've done this. We've actually had the tank out, and we've actually had this same, now that I think about it, we actually had this same problem where Tommy, our certified ASE technician, had replaced a fuel pump assembly, and the gauge didn't work. So he pulled the tank back out, and another technician was moving the gauge up and down while he was watching the gauge in the car with the tank out of there, and sure enough, it was the bad part. But we caught it before we delivered it. So here's what you want to do. You want him to replace that unit. If that does not, and he can get another unit without any cost, he'll be out in the labor. So pay him, promise to pay him, say split the labor with him, unless that fixes the problem. If it fixes the problem, you don't owe him anything. If it doesn't fix the problem, then he's at least paid his technician. That way you put some skin in the game, and he puts some skin in the game, and if he's worth saving, and you as a customer, which should be worth saving, then you've got an agreement, and you've got a way forward. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand completely.
Well,
yes.
I will tell you, I don't think I've ever had a customer come in here and say, hey, I take that back. We've had the customers come in here and ask for everything under the sun, and as a rule, we give it to them, unless we've done everything humanly possible, and then we draw the line. But he hasn't done everything humanly possible. He can replace that pump. So if his OEM supplier or his O'Reilly Auto Parts supplier, they pay as well. If they pay a fee or some of the claim, and we file claims, they pay some of the claim to replace this part, and then so he knows he's got some of their money and the part for no cost, and then if they don't pay, he knows he's got yours unless it fixes the problem, and if it fixes the problem, you don't owe him money anyway. So you go back to him and you have this conversation with him, and to ask him to step up. And you know, if you like the guy, if he's got a good business, he just needs a little help here, needs a little push, and you can hit his hot button with this kind of a methodology. You get where I'm going here?
I do understand completely.
Okay, great.
It's a beautiful little mom and pop shop. It
Great.
reminds me so much of the gentleman that worked on my vehicle back home. I love it. He's outstanding, true to his word. He just told me that it wasn't related to what he didn't believe.
Well, maybe he doesn't believe it. Obviously, he doesn't believe it. But the bottom line is, you know more about your vehicle than he, even though he's a professional. When somebody comes into our shop the first time, and they say, hey, I need this. I say, wait, time out. Let's do an annual inspection on your vehicle, or a pre-purchase inspection. Well, I already own the car, I don't need an inspection. Yeah, but we do. We need to familiarize our team with your car, unless you have, of course, the medical records and, you know, the all of your receipts from days gone past. And the answer to that is that usually doesn't happen. And our customers go along with us because we go along with them. So let me know, and after you get this problem solved, you call me back, and then we'll talk about him on the air, and we'll give him some free air time, because if he's worth it, he deserves it. If he's not, he doesn't.
I understand absolutely Understand absolutely.
Great.
I love your show. I will call you back when I find out what goes on.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Steve. Good luck.
Have yourself a great day now.
You as well, sir. Again, folks, your name in the hat for a $25 little gift card from our partners at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Jim, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hi, Bobby. How are you today?
Terrific. How about yourself?
Great. Just a quick question. I've got a 2007 F-150, and it's got an ABS light on, and the ABS doesn't work. And it's not the wheel sensors, so it's either the brain or whatever. What am I looking at as far as getting that repaired?
I have no idea. I don't quote prices, and in fact, it depends on where we buy the part, whether it's our shop or your shop in your hometown.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean money. I meant as far as the system itself.
Oh, the first thing has to be done is someone needs to spend time to test the system, because we can activate, using a professional scan tool, you can activate the ABS device and make it work. So we can actually hook up wirelessly. We have a dongle that plugs into the data port, and we can hook up to your vehicle, and using a laptop, we can make that unit work if it works, and activate that unit. If the wheel, you said the wheel sensors are not bad. How do you know that?
I had it checked at a shop, and they said it wasn't the sensors.
Okay.
Because they put the reader on it, and it was either the device up at the front there, the small thing that brain or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a sensor at first, and they said no, it wasn't a wheel sensor.
Well, then you're faced with replacing the ABS unit itself, and you've got to forward. This is another opportunity to go to the professional services network of Ford and go to FordParts.com, and you'll get information there. It's like a one-stop shop. That's FordParts.com. I mean, for you, that fits. I mentioned Omnicraft because that's a line of parts for all manufacturers, all makes of cars that Ford Motor Company makes. So the FordParts.com is specific to Ford. So you can get the information that you need to make an intelligent, educated decision on the repair of your ABS at FordParts.com.
Now, do you guys do it at your shop?
We do. Lots.
Okay. I'm going to be in Pensacola next month. I might stop in and see you then.
Well, but if you're coming this way, you make sure that you call us first and make sure that we know that you're en route, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Sure.
Okay. All right, my friend. Thank you so much, Jim.
Bye. Have a good day.
You as well. So that's kind of neat. We had one gentleman that said, "I want to come see you for an inspection." I said, "Oh, okay. Where do you live?" Well, south. It was 600 miles. You remember that, Fabio? He and his wife came here, and he said, "Well, we're coming to Atlanta anyway." I said, "Well, we're 5 hours from Atlanta." "That's okay." He said, "I'll just take another day off, and we're going to come down and look at the beach." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. You're going to drive 600 miles for me to inspect your car. Then what?" "Well, I don't know. Then what?" I said, "Well, we're going to find things wrong with your car." It was a used car that he'd always wanted. It was an Avalanche, a red, dark red, but it was a red Avalanche. It had 140,000 miles, as I remember. And I knew that there'd be a list of things that were wrong with the vehicle. I said, "So wait a minute, why would you come here, versus in South Carolina?" He said, "Well, I just don't have a local shop that I am connected with." And he used the word trust, and which is a big word for me. And I said, "Well, I have a problem, a challenge with that. You got to come here. We're going to inspect your car, and we're going to tell you it needs A, B, and X. And then what are you going to do?" "Well, I hadn't thought about that," he says. I said, "Well, if you come here, you're coming on a Friday." So he did. He rolled in on a Friday, and he pulled into the shop. And as I sit here live in front of this microphone, in front of all you folks, He drives in the car. We're waiting on him because we're expecting him. He called us ahead of time, and he was going to come down Friday. We were going to do our thing, and he was going to, go back home over the weekend. And lo and behold, he got out. I got out of my office, and all the crew was talking with him and his wife. And I said, "Hey, how you doing?" I got in his car and looked around, and I went to crank it to move it up like 3 feet, and it wouldn't start. He drove it all the way, and he had just put a new battery, and the cable was loose. Johnny walked around and moved the cable with his hand, and the vehicle started. I'll never forget this. So that's how it started. Needless to say, he did not go home. They stayed that weekend at Pensacola Beach, and we worked on that vehicle Monday, and we got through about 50% of the list that we did and gave him the list and next step directions. And we got just such we made a friend. We made a friend, and that's really important. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, another hour coming up, and if we're not aired locally, you can go to watchbobbylive.com. I'm Bobby Likis. Thanks for tuning in this hour. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Today's Repair Spotlight is for gasoline-powered engines with 60,000 plus miles. At this age and high mileage, vehicles can develop irritating small oil leaks that can make a mess and ultimately cause serious damage to engine and chassis components. The solution? Berryman's B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator. It's simple to use and safe for engine components like catalytic converters and oxygen sensors. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator cleans and protects the crankcase and engine oil system on all gas-powered vehicles and conditions and revitalizes seals and gaskets to help stop oil leaks. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator contains zinc-based ZDDP and molybdenum moly to help fight friction, heat, and wear. It helps prevent sludge formation to maximize engine performance and life. Don't put up with those pesky oil leaks. Add some Berryman B60 to your motor oil and add another level of protection for your engine. Learn more about Berryman B60 and other great products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulsiford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulsiford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And thank you, Martin White. Good morning, folks. Welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. 888 Car Clinic is also our main call-in number, 888-227-2546. Our partners at O'Reilly Auto Parts have given me a $25 gift card, and we're going to give it away about 55 minutes after the hour. So in another 50 minutes or so, or 40, whatever that, you can do the math, whatever time it is now. Soon, you call, you put your name in the hat, and we'll just draw one of our team members. We'll draw a name out of the hat, and I'll send you a gift card for $25, courtesy of our partners at O'Reilly Auto Parts. That's really cool. All you got to do is call with a question or a comment. You don't just call and say, put my name in the hat and hang up. It doesn't work that way. You got to participate. It is a call-in car talk program, and I've hosted this program for 28 years. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part today by Berryman Products. If your vehicle is a little sluggish, experiencing poor fuel economy, try Berryman B12 Chem Tool, which features the exclusive HEST, or High Energy Solvent Technology. Berryman B12 Chem Tool helps clean the fuel system, and it can result in higher compression, fewer repairs, and lower operating costs. That's a good thing. Learn more at berrymanproducts.com. Your calls at 888-227-2546 when I come back. Time for another edition of Cooling System Q&A, brought to you by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. Why is the thermostat so important? Cooling system regulates engine temperature and helps prevent overheating. While it's comprised of several components, the thermostat plays a critical role with efficient cooling system operation. It must regulate coolant flow properly to maintain a specific engine operating temperature, in addition to providing quick warm-up. Motorrad's new stainless steel thermal element UltraStat is unmatched for corrosion resistance. Its revolutionary Reax wax mixture provides quicker reaction time. The UltraStat also features bilinear valve technology, which prevents thermal shock to cooling system components, gradually increasing coolant flow versus instant maximum flow found in traditional thermostats. The UltraStat precisely controls engine temperature to ensure the lowest emission standards, maximum fuel efficiency, and terrific interior cabin comfort. The Motorrad UltraStat line is the perfect thermostat upgrade option, with coverage for over 160 million vehicles on the road today. Motorrad, leading the way in coverage and service. We recently had an 09 Honda Pilot come into the shop with 169,000 miles on the odometer. The vehicle owner said the cabin was starting to smell like coolant, and he was concerned. Upon closer inspection, we found a heater core leak. Choices were to keep the vehicle and make a repair, which at best is half a day's labor plus parts, or sell the vehicle and buy a different used car that could have its own set of problems. We presented a third option, K-Seal. You've heard me talk about K-Seal before. Well, I don't just talk about it, we actually use the product in our service shop. It's a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Other sealers use sodium silicate, which has the tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Our customer went with K-Seal, and 1 month later, no more leak. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Before we get into cars and oils and those sorts of things and engines and all of the under the hood things that you and I discuss and talk about each week, I want to take this opportunity to wish my grandson and granddaughter, Abram and Grace Dunn, in Ruther Glen, Virginia. It's a 80-acre farm, and they live there with their twins. They live there with their brother and sister and mom and dad, my daughter and son-in-law, and their brother and sister is also are also twins, 2 sets of twins. That's a story I can share. It's interesting. But I want to wish a happy birthday to Grace and to Abram. I love you kids, and you do a great job. You're great with your mom and your dad, and I wish for you a long life. So, folks, I'll invite you to call. I've got a little $25 credit gift from O'Reilly Auto Parts that I'm going to share, give someone, some Car Clinic listener. 888 Car Clinic. 888 Hannah will take your name and you give her your number, and also she'll put you in a queue and I'll put you on the air. 888-227-2546. So that's a little business that I wanted to take care of, I'm proud to say. And now I'm going to share with you some information about the new Corvette that I've actually mentioned several times, but didn't find the time to get into it. So while I give you time to call, 888-227-2546, I want to share this with you because I find it very, very interesting. And the upcoming mid-engine, yeah, that's right. I mean, this is really a publicized, highly publicized, gonna happen, and sure enough, it is happening. 2020 Chevrolet Corvette C8 promises a new level of performance, but according to this article, the aftermarket might hate it. Well, I don't think so. I mean, and why? Here's the crux of it. The next generation Corvette will be the first to place its engine behind the driver, and that engine will be controlled by, as we all know, an ECU, electronic control unit, or PCM, power control module. Anyway, the main computer that tunes the engine, right? Adjusts the air and the fuel and what have you. Well, this is different. GM, for some reason, has encrypted the ECU. So according to Muscle Cars and Trucks, and this information in their magazine comes to me through Motor Authority, one of the news sources that I subscribe to. The encryption will prevent changes to the ECU software in pursuit of more horsepower, according to the report. Now, you know, I want you to remember that I said this. Remember that I'm quoting these folks because I think Jim McGinn at Super Chips and PowerTech, I think they're going to have a field day with this vehicle. First, they've got to figure out how to get around the encryption. But it's a new electronic architecture that GM has installed on the 2020. And any and here are the threats, folks. This is, and I have to say this with a smile on my face. Any unsuccessful attempt to reprogram the ECU will reportedly trigger a recovery mode. What's a recovery mode? It requires the entire system to be rebooted. The report indicates this may not be something the average person can do, leading to a bricked Corvette. So if you remember, years ago we had, when the iPhones came out, and Fabio, you know, had multiple phones, you know, jailbreaking, and I've mentioned about jailbreaking my Jag, which I'd love to be able to do, but the only way I can jailbreak my Jag is to go through a UK company, you know, and spend $1,000 to pick up, you know, 30, 40, 50 horsepower, which I really don't need. If Super Chips made a chip for my vehicle or a programmer handheld, that would be great. But, you know, how many people that own Jags want to bump up the horsepower? So it's not a market for them. I wish it were. But it takes more than just a wishing to make one of those devices. You have to create that program, and you have to make that program work universally. So that's why the Super Chips folks provide their program for Ford, GM, Chrysler, and Jeep cars. But anyway, getting back to the new, and speaking of GM cars, back to the Corvette, exactly what engine will be controlled by the allegedly encrypted ECU has been the subject of much speculation. Some reports have indicated that the new Corvette will use an evolution of the current car's 6.2-liter pushrod V8, but Muscle Cars and Trucks claims it will get a dual overhead cam V8 codenamed LT2. Previous reports also claimed a mid-range Corvette model would get a Cadillac-derived 4.2-liter twin-turbo V8, while the range-topping Corvette will get a 5.5-liter twin-turbo V8, making a monstrous 850 horsepower, almost 100 horsepower more than the current flagship ZR1. But folks, we'll find out when the mid-engine Corvette finally makes its public debut. When? 2 days after my birthday, July 18. So my first call is going to be to our partners at Super Chips and say, can you spell horsepower? Well, sure. What kind of GM car do you have? Well, I have a 2020 Corvette mid-engine. That's a challenge. So we're going to find out if Super Chips, my friends at Super Chips love challenges. My best guess, I bet they're already working on it. Of course, they have to have the car to do it, but that's a no-brainer. We'll take a call from New York from Sarah. Sarah, good morning. You're first up, and so I'm going to put you on the air first. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Sarah, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, I have a question about getting a tuner for my 2016 Jeep.
Okay. What questions do you have?
I do a lot of stopping and starting, so I deliver mail, and I was wondering if a tuner would help in any way, or would it be essentially I'm thinking it wouldn't be an expensive toy. I want to know if it'd be a worthwhile purchase.
I think it would be. As I just stated, when I talked about the new Corvette, it's yet to hit the showroom floor, the mid-engine 2020 Vet, I definitely would put a tuner on, and here's why. Your car was delivered from the factory. And folks, for everyone listening to Bobby Likis right now, this goes for the car that you're driving as well. Whether it's a Mercedes, Benz, or a Kia, or a Jeep Wrangler, the car comes from the factory detuned. Every car delivered comes from the factory detuned. And you say, well, what does that mean? Well, the main goal, and understand this because this is something that's not published, and you won't hear this anywhere but right here. The main goal of the OEMs is, number one, to meet the emissions required and mandated by the EPA. That's the main goal, number one. Number two, the second main goal is to make sure the catalytic converter lasts 10 years or 80,000 miles, because that's how long it's warranted. So in order to make the converter, supposedly, because other things happen, but let's just say that the car was healthy forever, which we know it's a mechanical device, so it's not going to be, but let's just say that it is for the sake of this argument or this statement. The engine is not delivered with maximized gas mileage or horsepower or torque. It's delivered to maximize the life of the converter, which is the air-fuel ratio, which is stoichiometric, or 14.7 parts air to 1 part fuel, or 9,000 gallons of air for every gallon of fuel. That's how it works. And in order to do that, there's a compromise. You compromise torque, you compromise horsepower, and you compromise MPG. But the manufacturers have to live within those parameters. And so for you, Sarah, to put a tuner on your Jeep would do two things. It would deliver more horsepower, which means you, according to the weight of the vehicle, could use less throttle to do the same amount of work, because for all intents and purposes, you'll have more horsepower, so you'll take less energy or less throttle to make the vehicle move in the same manner. Now, do people that use the super tuner the tuner kits, do they get better gas mileage? The answer is absolutely. Do they do it the first tank? No, because they're having so much fun, which you mentioned, having so much fun feeling that power. And it's not that it's magic, it's just a way to retune the engine. You got a hard break here, Sarah. Stay there. Folks, don't go away. Why CarStar? Today's vehicles offer comforts and conveniences never imagined 20 years ago. Backup cameras, entertainment systems, start-stop technology, the list goes on. These technologies help avoid accidents. But what happens after a crash? Growth in electronic vehicle content adds to the collision repair cost and complexity. Damage a side view mirror or paint a bumper, and you may change the trajectory of that sensor. Adaptive headlights are another example. They actually turn the corner with you as you're turning the corner. The price for these headlights can reach $2,000. Now, more than ever, it's important to follow automaker guidelines for vehicle repairs. Don't compromise vehicle safety. CarStar is North America's largest multi-shop operator of independently owned repair facilities. CarStar delivers consistently high-quality repairs and the industry's highest customer satisfaction ratings. At CarStar, they don't just repair cars, they repair your car. Learn more at carstar.com. Folks, recently a 99 Chevrolet Blazer came into the shop. The owner was having problems with hesitation upon acceleration. He'd already changed out several parts: spark plugs, wires, ignition coil, mass airflow sensor, fuel filter, and the air filter element. He even changed the thermostat and coolant temperature sensor. Still had the same problem after putting a lot of money in this car, and he was frustrated. We dug a little deeper, cleaned the throttle body, and checked for trouble codes. No codes. So we recommended Berryman B12 Chem Tool. Carbon deposits and dirty fuel injector nozzles are a common problem with drivability in late model engines. We also recommended a higher quality gasoline. The customer noticed improvement on the first day, and only a few days and a few hundred miles later, the problem was completely gone. Berryman B12 Chem Tool features HEST, Berryman's exclusive high-energy solvent technology. The result is a more complete combination of available chemical technologies. Drive to BerrymanProducts.com for more information. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip
from Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, brought to you in part by Omnicraft. The quality and reliability you expect from Ford, now available for non-Ford vehicles. Learn more at omnicraftautoparts.com. We're talking with Sarah in New York, who's considering a tuner for her Jeep. She uses it to deliver mail. So Sarah, here's what I would do. Number one, and I'm sure you've already replaced the brakes on the vehicle, you're probably going to have to go with a semi-metallic, and this is not a question that you ask, but it's one you need to know. You should go with a semi-metallic brake lining on the front, because that's going to wear out sooner than later. You already know that. You've been driving, I'm sure, for a while. With regard with the tuner, I do recommend the tuner, not because they're sponsors or partners, but because if I had a tuner available for my vehicle, I would put it on it, because, as I said, your car and every car delivered from the manufacturer comes detuned, because it is specifically programmed to meet a mandate of EPA parameters with exhaust emissions. And the tuner, and I asked this question of Jim again, from PowerTech. I said, how do you guys do this? If there's horsepower on the hood and you just have to plug the machine in and reprogram it in 5 minutes, which I've done, how can you get away with that? He said, well, Bobby, we don't have to live by the same rules as the manufacturer. We're still legal, and it doesn't void the manufacturer's warranty. So I say yes, by all means. Go to superchips.com, Sarah, and take a look. And if you have questions, call and talk to a rep. Call voice to voice. Tell them I recommended them. And you call and you talk to them and ask them, hey, here's my specific use. What can I expect? But I will say this. I put a Super Chips unit on a 2018 F250 diesel. In addition, I put a power amp, a throttle amp on it. And a throttle amp changes the linear movement of the throttle. It doesn't add horsepower, but it sure makes it drive a whole lot different. And I loved it. But setting that aside, which, and I'm not recommending that for you because you're not looking to launch the car, but the tuner I am recommended. But I will tell you, this vehicle is owned by an individual that goes hunting a lot, and he drives rather fast, and he went from 16.2 to 18.2 miles per gallon the first weekend that we put this tuner in. It took me a year to get the tuner because it was an 18 and Super Chips hadn't made the unit yet. So finally when they did, we ordered one and I installed it along with a throttle amp, and it blew me away. I made a video. It smoked the tires shifting the gears. So does it produce horsepower and torque? Absolutely. Does it help gas mileage? Absolutely. That was a diesel. Yours is not. But the fact is, the same program, the same theory and methodology used to unleash horsepower and torque in that Ford diesel will do the same thing in your Jeep Wrangler, and that's what I recommend. Any questions?
No, I was just a little on the fence debating about it.
Yeah,
so
sure. Well,
wondering.
the fact of the matter is, there's not much you can do with your vehicle because it's all controlled by the computer. So go right straight for the throat. If you're going to do something to make a difference that you can feel and measure, then you have to get into the architecture of the programming of the vehicle. Luckily for you, Super Chips includes the Jeep product. So I recommend it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your call from New York. We'll take another call. And remember, folks, our partners at O'Reilly Auto Parts, I've got a $25 chit here that somebody's going to win. So you put your name in the hat, and when I come to you, we'll at the end of the show, we'll draw a name out of the hat. 888-227-2546. I would say this, another little, maybe you didn't know this, but from our friends at the Car Care Council, a small windshield chip can cause big problems. And so if your vehicle's windshield has a small chip or a crack, don't ignore it. Fix it. And according to Rich White, the executive director of the Car Care Council, windshield damage may happen unexpectedly and should be fixed as soon as possible. A neglected, easy for you to say, neglected small chip or crack can turn into a large one when an item such as a rock or a golf ball or a baseball hits the windshield, and that compromises the safety and requires full windshield replacement. Don't let that happen. Repair that small chip or crack. It's inexpensive, it's easy to fix, and your owner's insurance may even pay for the repair, according to Rich White, and I agree 100%. In the state of Florida, no one has to pay for a chip repair. All you have to do is call your agent and say, my windshield's chipped. Where do I get it fixed? Or you can go for more information to carcare.org, which is what I recommend you do anyway. Let's go to Mexico. Robert. Hola.
Yes, this is Robert.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm in New Mexico.
New Mexico. Oh, well, I just spent time in Cabo, San Lucas.
Oh, well, that's old Mexico.
I know. Well, it's not too old. I guess it is. What can I do for you?
Well, first of all, Bobby, thanks for being at work today. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. This is not work, but I appreciate it. It's worked for the team, for Fabio and for Hannah and for Jonathan. But for me, it's just an extension of, it is a Saturday job for 28 years, but it makes me for a cheap date on Friday night because I don't do anything on Friday night except get ready to come in here on Saturday. But I sure made a lot of friends, and I sure helped a lot of people. And it also now has evolved after 28 years, Robert, in hosting this program, and 48 in the service business. I'm obviously an older guy. It keeps me on my toes. So there's a benefit to me now every Saturday morning. So what can I do to help you, sir? Thank you for your compliments.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm 81 years old, so I got you beat by just a little bit.
Well, you do.
I have a 2007 Prius that has 91,000 miles on it, and I'm getting concerned about the main battery. Am I going to get any warning that battery is going to go bad on me?
Yes, but you're 100,000 miles away.
Good.
And Fabio, Fabio, get on air with us. What year is your Prius?
It's a 04.
04. And how many miles did you put on it?
I have about 200 something thousand right now.
And when did you first know? I know that you had to replace the battery, and that was at 200,000 miles. What were the symptoms with your car? And Robert, Fabio is a producer of the program, and he drives one, so he knows firsthand. So how did you know you needed a battery?
So the dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree.
Oh, it did?
Yeah. And then I took it to a shop, and they said, yeah, it's your main battery.
Yeah, this was prior to you coming to work here. Now,
right.
Let me ask you a question. Did you get any other pre-warnings, or did it still run and drive and okay?
Yeah, everything was fine, and then it just lit up.
It just lit up. Okay.
So I was still able to drive it to where I needed to take it.
And how long did you drive it in that condition?
I drove it from Pensacola to Mississippi and back.
With the dashboard lit up? You're a better man than I. Yeah. See, Robert, Fabio doesn't know anything about cars. So no pun intended here, no flame intended, because he does control our volume here, so in control. But so I got to tell you, you don't have to worry about that. And there's no maintenance. And those cars are great cars. And so I would. What year's your car again? 07?
Yes, 07.
Yeah, you got 100,000 miles to go, man. And
another thing, I've been using Mobil 1 oil since 1974 in every combustion engine that I own.
That's great oil. We use it. We use it in our shop. I mean, and manufacturers, you take my Viper, my 01 Viper, which I've sold. You open the bonnet on it, and the oil breather cap's got Mobil 1 on it, and Mercedes. I mean, you name the cars. Mobil 1 marketing has done a great job. Because quite candidly, brand name oil, any brand name oil that you buy that is a brand name with a starburst will protect your engine. I don't care if it's Mobil 1, Castrol, Valvoline, Royal Purple, Amsoil. I mean, but now, believe it or not, and I can say this categorically because I've been there and done that, there are some people that think that their oil that they're using in their engine is the only oil and it will make their engine run better and last better. And I used Valvoline, and I still had my drag race engines blow up. Wasn't the oil? It was me, because I didn't know what I was. I was trying to push that envelope too far. You can only put so much air in a balloon, and it's going to blow, right? And you can only push a horsepower so much on an engine, and you're going to find the weakest point. And you fix that, and then something else is weaker, and you fix that. And my father taught me. He knew nothing about cars. He was a car guy, but he didn't know anything technically about cars. But he told me every time I would break something, all you're doing is you're finding the weakest link. And sure enough, I was always good at finding the weakest link, but I sure learned a lot the hard way and the expensive way at my expense. Anyway, any other questions?
Yeah, well, I'll just make a comment that what convinced me to use synthetic oil when I was in the military, in the Navy, in 1950s, they used synthetic oil in their jet engines that were running at 15,000 RPM. That convinced me, and when it became available, I started buying it.
Well, and I'm on board with you. Synthetic oil does have is superior to conventional motor oil. Without getting into it, because now the phones are lit up. But one thing, Robert, that you do need to know, and everyone needs to know with regard to synthetic versus conventional oil. The base stock of a quart of oil, which is 75 to 85% of the can. The other is the additive package that makes castor oil different from Valvoline, and Valvoline different from Mobil 1, and so on and so forth. But the base stock is the same, except in synthetic oil, all the molecules are same size, so it flows faster, quicker, easier, better, and lubricates better, versus conventional oil where all the molecules are different sizes, so it doesn't flow as well, especially in cold, cold weather. So that's why synthetic oil is superior, because when you first fire the engine, the faster you can, the best way to do that would be to have an accumulator would have pressure before you fire the engine. But it's possible, but not practical. Hey, thanks for your call, Robert from Mexico. Folks, take a break. I'll be back to take your messages and your calls. Talking tunes? No, not the ones on your radio, the ones that allow you to reprogram your vehicle's factory computer, giving you more power, more torque, and a better overall driving experience. We recently sat down with Jim McGinn, Vice President of Marketing for Power Tech. Jim touched on the role a tuner plays when adding an intake or exhaust system.
Anytime you add an intake or an exhaust system, it's important to make sure that you have a tune equipped to help those hard parts work well together on your vehicle. The magic and beauty of the Diablo Sport tuners and the Reaper Stage 1 kits are that you get an air-fuel mixture that is already designed and engineered for the particular setup that you may be running to electronically compensate for the intake and the exhaust on your vehicles. Diablo Sport Jammer intake tunes make tuning easy anytime you add an intake or an exhaust.
Whether it's the Predator, the Intune i3, or the Trinity 2, you can find the perfect tune at DiabloSport.com. That's DiabloSport.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease. And she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. Let's go to Alex, who has a Hyundai. Alex, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Well, I love listening to you all day at work while I'm driving. It's kind of like being in the shop. You and I are the same era. When we wanted to make a car go fast back then, it was bigger pistons, hope there's nothing broken. Now, with a laptop, they can change and make everything under the hood variable. Injector timing, ignition timing. It's off the charts on what they can do.
Well, and to that, I'm sorry, Alex, but to that end, in the interim period, when it went from the era where we put pistons and bigger carburetors and cams and what have you, to the early on electronics, we didn't have that option. So it really was a turnoff to me, and I had to force myself to appreciate and admire the fact that you could control a machine with which I thought was a live person. I mean, as you and I have probably the same feeling there, but you could control that wild new engine with a box, But now, as we fast forward to the last 10 years, it's phenomenal. I'll turn it back to you now.
All right, a couple comments. I listen to your shows every Saturday while I drive. How about engine pre-oilers? I had a motorhome one time that had that. The moment I turned the ignition switch on, a secondary pump that was aftermarket put on brought oil pressure up. So I had oil pressure at startup, and then when I'd shut it down because it was turbocharged, it would let the oil pressure maintain afterwards, so the turbochargers still got a little bit of lubrication. That accessory, I don't understand why car manufacturers just don't build something like that in, because you talk about the importance of the right weight oil and those few milliseconds that it's starting up dry and the extreme wear that causes. To me, that would be a real simple change at the point of manufacture. One other question is, the manufacturers like the new Corvette you were just talking about, are they not... does that not interfere with the warranty? They're putting a product out to a certain criteria, and then the guys that are wizards with their computers change the entire operating parameters of it. Does that not kind of like kick GM in the butt because we know better and we don't have to? I don't understand how they could not void your warranty.
Well,
putting some of that stuff on.
Those are both good points. So I'll make the shortest answer. I'll answer the last question first, and that is, the neat thing about a tuner is the first thing that a tuner does, well, just like when you open the box, just like you get a new computer, the first thing you do is you plug it in and go to the site of Superchips, register the product, and they download the latest software. Because of the tuner that you buy, even if you order it today and it comes off the shelf, by the time you get it tomorrow or Monday, they could have a better tuner. So the first thing you do, a better program. So the first thing you do is you update the new part, then you plug it in your vehicle, and Alex, it downloads the factory tune, and it saves it. So you don't have to worry about that, because everything that's there to start with that they change is downloaded and saved in a file, and that tuner is specific to your vehicle. Then you put in different ratio gears and different tire sizes and whatever kind of gas that you want to run, high octane or low octane, and that's when the tuner does its little thing. So you don't have to worry about whether or not the manufacturer affects the warranty. Number one, there's no real way to know that a technician in a service shop would even know that that's warranty, because that's part of the program that we don't get to look at anyway. It's within the root architecture of the software. So if I had my vehicle modified, if I could buy a Superchips for it, I would, but they don't make it for my Jag. If I could modify that engine, I would do it. And then you say, well, okay, if it's under warranty and you had some check engine light, would you take the program back out? Well, it's not fair for me to say that because I'm in the business. But if I were a consumer that non-related and not in the business, yeah, I would put it back factory stock, just so that I wouldn't give the OEM or the dealer the excuse that, well, hey, the check engine light on because you did this trick. That's not the case at all. The check engine light doesn't come on. It doesn't cause problems. So you don't have to worry about that. That part is a no-brainer. And then now back to the accumulator of oil. Positively, absolutely, yes. The benefit of having oil pressure before you start up, and just think about it. I mean, how dumb is it that, well, not dumb, but let's think about it. Our hearts are beating if we're asleep, or we'd not wake up. Yeah. But our heart pump in an engine doesn't run until it gets out of bed. You got to crank the engine and run it before the pump turns, and then there's a thing called a process called pumpability. Pumpable. Oil has to be pumpable. If you put honey in the crankcase, it is not pumpable. So the engine would starve. If you put 2050 weight oil in a new vehicle, the top of the engine would starve for oil because it's too thick and too fat
to get there.
Get there. So you would damage, and I know people that have done this, you would damage. And furthermore, I had a customer in the last 6 months that had his or her oil changed in their Ford pickup, and it came to us immediately following the oil change because the cam phaser quit working, and all we did to fix it was change the oil and filter to the right viscosity, because they had the wrong viscosity oil, and the tiny orifice in the cam phaser solenoid, electric solenoid, wouldn't pass the oil. So that's how critical those things are. So if your car calls for 0.20 or 5.20 or 0.5, which you'll see some of that, 0.8, 0.6 coming up, then on the new G6 oil spec, you better use what's called for in the factory. Synthetic or otherwise, just stay with the factory. So I agree with you, but... Okay.
And I wouldn't skip on the intervals because
all
the variable valve timing
exactly.
and the orifices you're talking about, you start going too long on oil changes,
you oxidize.
You're going to find problems just because the orifices
That is correct. That is correct. And furthermore, as oil ages, it oxidizes. And that means it has air in it. And as it oxidizes, that means that more molecules of oil are exposed to air, which oxidizes it more. So an oxidized base of oil will oxidize at a rate faster than fresh oil. So there's every reason in the world to change oil. Now, in closing, because we have other calls, in closing, an accumulator, which is a cylinder that has a spring in it, and you turn the key, it's got a solenoid on it, it's hooked to the main aorta of the engine. You run the engine, the oil pressure from the engine pushes the piston back against the spring. When you turn the key off, you kill the solenoid, and the solenoid is normally closed, so it traps that pressurized canister of oil. And the canister is a cylinder that's about 18, 16 inches long and what have you. But Alex, here's the root problem with what you and I know to be advantageous to any engine. The plumbing involved and the room to place the unit properly negates the long-term effect in mass. What that means is 1 out of every 50 of those devices would have an oil leak or an oil hose and cause engine problems because the person that installed it didn't do it correctly, or a fitting went bad, or the vibrations of the engine, and yada, yada, yada. You see where I'm going?
Yeah, we're creating a larger problem than we're fixing.
Absolutely.
Or at least a potential.
Potential. Yeah, but it's like catch cans. Are catch cans great to get that black lung disease, that PCV yuck out of the intake of the engine? Black lung disease, I call it. Yeah, but you gotta redesign the engine, and you got to be an engineer, and you got to test in the first 1,000 units you make don't work. And so anyway, I guess man's got to know his limits, and I never did know mine, but as I get wiser, I do. Hey, thanks for your call. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I love your show, man. I listen to it every week.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. Okay, let's go to Texas. Tony, first, go to Tony with a quick update. Tony, you got an 05 GMC. This is an update call. What's on your mind?
I called you last Saturday. Remember, I had the shift range inhibited problem. The truck was jumping out of gear.
Right.
I don't know if you remember that. Anyway, it was exactly, at least as far as we could determine, it was exactly what you said it was. The main culprit was the little black plastic ignition switch in the steering column. That was causing the power interruption of some kind that was sending a signal and messing up my Allison transmission computer.
How cool is that? How cool is that?
Now, yeah, I know you're somewhat familiar with Daytona. The guy who diagnosed this for me worked at a transmission shop. I won't mention the name, but it was right by the railroad tracks on Speedway, just west of US 1. Been there in Daytona for. And he worked there for a long time. Actually, was one of the partners before they just closed down. And he has his own shop down in South Daytona now. I took it to my normal mechanic on Monday. He gave me the card of this guy and said, go down and see him. So I went down to see him. And mine's a 2005 Allison 1000.
Mm-hmm.
The NSBU switch is exterior on my, bolts to the outside of my transmission. In 2006, when they went to the Allison 1000 6-speed, they located that switch internally inside the transmission. So my repair was $325.
Wow.
It would have been $700 or better if I had the 6-speed.
Boy, what a success story that is. What a terrific, so thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad that we had some really solid, hard evidence of a success story. So I'm glad you called.
No, everything worked out fine. It was just what you said.
Good.
I replaced the ignition switch and the NSBU switch because he said 240,000 miles on both of these original parts.
Agreed.
I would change them both. I mean, the NSBU switch is a $115 part, and the ignition switch was a $45 part.
Wow. And one
both
quick.
of them are one beer job.
Well, then one quick question then. What about the burned fluid or the dark color fluid that you had? What did you decide to do about that?
That was operator error on my part. my mechanic in Georgia did a fine job.
Great.
The first thing we did when we drove over to my mechanic was we looked at the fluid, and he said, your fluid's perfect. It's right where it should be. And I ran my finger across it. It's clear and red.
Okay.
And I checked it with the nose of my truck sticking up in my garage, and it was dark.
All right.
Kind of dark. And when and my mind was going 1,000,000 miles a minute. Allison transmission, $7,000.
Oh, I know. Oh, I'm with you. Well, hey, thank you so much for sharing.
Messed up.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and stay tuned. And I'm glad that you did tune in, because $350 compared to $6,000. Yeah. Happy Father's Day early. Okay. All right. Thank you, Tony.
Go ahead.
I said thank you.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to run.
Yeah.
All I was going to say is what it turned out to be was routine maintenance for 240,000 mile parts.
Cool.
That's all.
That's great, man. Congratulations. And folks, I want to wish another person congratulations, a winner for our O'Reilly Auto Parts $25 gift card, courtesy of our partners at O'Reilly Auto Parts, Sarah from New York. So, Sarah, hats off to you. As they say, your check will be in the mail. We will call you and notify you as to how we'll transfer the card. But congratulations again to Sarah from New York, an earlier caller that we had who won the $25 gift card. Final call of the day from Texas, Larry with a 12 Kia. Larry, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning, Bobby. You have a fantastic show.
Thank you.
I recently bought a 2012 Fiat 500 and had all the fluids changed as a precaution. To check to make sure everything was done right, I pulled all dipsticks and looked in all reservoirs, but I cannot find the dipstick, although they say they changed it, for the transmission fluid.
That is because the transmission, yes, the transmission fluid checking is different than it used to be. In some cases, for instance, say a Jag, there's an overflow hole, just like a differential, where you take a plug out, and with the temperature of the transmission at 150 degrees, you have to run the engine and have a scan tool hooked to it. The same thing's true for all cars, really. And then you pull the plug out and it'll find its own level, whereas other cars, there's a plug in the oil pan, and you pull the plug, and that plug is attached to a stand pipe, and anything higher than and elevated above the standpipe will drain out. It seeks its own level. So changing and checking fluids is not the same that it used to be. Hey, out of time, Larry. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Folks, Bobby Likis Car Clinic was brought to you today in part by MotorRad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats, closure caps, and engine management. Learn more about their products and industry-leading application coverage at motorrad.com. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Remember, if you're like Aaron in Augusta or Steve in Dallas or James in Salt Lake, make sure that you use a trusted service provider for your repair or whatever maintenance needs. Or for the friends in Daytona, Ford's professional service network features expert service coupled with Motorcraft, Omnicraft, and Ford parts. Take a quick tour at FordPSN.com. Until next time, I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, pick up 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil for $28.95 and get a $10 O'Reilly gift card by mail. Protect your engine from sludge and wear with Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
How can you best maintain your vehicle battery? What about installation? You can find answers to these questions and more at The Battery Shop. Brought to you by Johnson Controls. The Battery Shop is a YouTube channel featuring DIY battery maintenance and installation videos, technical tips, even battery science. It's your one-stop shop for car battery information. Johnson Controls is a global leader in vehicle battery manufacturing with over 50 manufacturing, recycling, and distribution centers worldwide. Find The Battery Shop on YouTube or visit autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grown, now